What's up? How's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about Star Wars Visions Season 3. I finally got to Season 2 just recently, and then I almost immediately afterwards watched Season 3, and so let's get into it. Let's talk about it. I'm going to be doing this exactly like how I did Season 1 and Season 2, where I'm going to be going episode by episode and just listing the things that stuck out to me, whether they be good or whether they be bad. I've already done Season 1 and Season 2 like that, so let's just keep the ball rolling and continue doing it that way for Season 3. So Season 3 did something interesting where they brought back some of the stories that we had in Season 1 for a continuation of whatever story that might be. That's not for all the episodes, but it's for a few of them, and it starts immediately. Season 3, Episode 1, titled The Duel Payback, is a continuation of The Duel, which is Episode 1 of Season 1. And I really like this episode. This episode adds a lot more context to the character of the Ronin. You get to understand what kind of character he is a lot better in this continuation episode, and honestly, it just made me like that episode in Season 1 a lot better. The Duel was not in my top 3 favorite episodes from Season 1. As a matter of fact, it's not even in my top 5 personally, but this episode, this continuation of that story, just makes me like that episode a lot more. And in my opinion, this episode is probably just as good as the original. The second episode of Season 3 is called The Song of Four Wings, and this episode is a very interesting one to me because I think that there's that aspect in the story that's presented that makes it feel very original trilogy. Of course, there's a lot that separates it from the original trilogy, but there are just those aspects there in the story that give me a very similar feeling. Aside from that, I think this episode has some cool vehicle designs and very interesting music for a Star Wars project. Episode 3 of Season 3 is called The Ninth Jedi: Child of Hope. This is a continuation of The Ninth Jedi from the first season, and I personally love this episode. The Ninth Jedi was the best episode in Star Wars Visions up until this point, and it still is, but The Ninth Jedi: Child of Hope is just as good, I think. Actually, I don't think it is, but it's in that same ballpark. And it just goes to show why, out of all the Star Wars Visions episodes, this is the story that's getting its own miniseries or full-length series. I'm not sure which it's going to be, but if you don't know, this one's getting a series made out of it, and this is why. Similarly to the first episode of The Ninth Jedi, this continuation just goes to show that this story is far above that of almost every other Visions episode. When you're watching it, it doesn't feel like a one-off story. It feels like you're getting a series already, and it's just taking forever for the episodes to come out. And I've said this before, but it's so impressive to make me care on an emotional level about a story or a character when you've only got like 20 minutes or less to do so, and there's no continuation after that. I think it's very impressive. I think Teto is an absolutely amazing character for only being in one episode of a thing. And honestly, I would hear you out if you wanted to make an argument that Teto is a top 20 droid in all of Star Wars. That's how good it is. Although I don't have a top 3 episodes for this season, I was having trouble narrowing it down to 3. This one is unequivocally my favorite of the season. Episode 4 of Season 3 is called The Bounty Hunter, or The Bounty Hunters, plural, depending on whether or not you fact check first. I really like the story of this episode. I think that it's a good story. I like the characters, they're interesting, and sort of like the background lore of things that we kind of get in flashbacks or in memories. I think that's all interesting. The only issue I have with this episode is that it's a bit predictable. Once you get to the villain of the episode, there's kind of no mistaking that he's going to be the villain, even though you don't know that yet, or you're not supposed to anyway. I did, however, enjoy the big golden droideka. See, this is why I don't make things whenever I'm sick. This is why I normally wait, because it sounded like I just said whoever. I said however. Episode 5 of Season 3 is called Yuko's Treasure, and this was an episode that when it started I was expecting to like, because I don't go into any of these Visions episodes thinking that I won't like them. Whether I like them or not, I don't go into them thinking that I won't. But when I went into this episode, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but I really did like this episode. It's very Skeleton Crew feeling, it's very family-friendly adventure sort of feeling. You have pirates as your villains, and it's just a fun adventure story. Not to mention, it's another thing that I always seem to enjoy, which is a story about found family. Episode 6 is called The Lost Ones, and it's a continuation of The Village Bride from Season 1. That was an episode in season 1 that I really liked. It was in my top 3, and if I were to make a top 3 for this season, which I'm not going to do in this instance, but if I was going to, this one would most likely be in there. It would either be my 3rd or 4th favorite of the season. I really enjoyed this episode, not as much as the original from season 1. I think that this episode is good, and the story is good, and of course I like the main character, but I think that The Village Bride had something that The Lost Ones doesn't, which is that extra emotional connection that I have in that first episode. I don't know if it's the music, I don't know if it's that particular story being told, but personally I felt more emotionally attached to the story in the first episode. That said, I do think that The Lost Ones is comparable in quality. It also just so happens to have a very direct and very obvious Back to the Future reference if you know what you're looking for. Episode 7 of season 3 is called The Smuggler. I really like this story as well. This would either be my 3rd or 4th favorite if I had to make a list, which again I'm not going to do, but I keep saying that, so I'm kind of doing it without doing it. Anyway, I really like this episode. I think that the characters were cool and the character designs were cool, and I like the story. It's just a fun story. I think that the world building was interesting with this one. This episode I think is more in keeping with what we know in Star Wars canon and doesn't veer off the path of what we are used to very much, and I appreciate that. I like the episodes that do their own thing and do something new and interesting and all that, but I also like those ones that are familiar, and I like that this episode feels familiar. It feels like if we made some sort of anthology series like the Clone Wars during the time of the Empire, this feels like it would fit into a series like that. Episode 8 of season 3 is called The Bird of Paradise, and this was a very unique episode. It's kind of unlike anything else we've seen in Star Wars. It's more of an internal conflict. The only thing I could possibly compare it to would be like the Yoda training arc from season 6 of Clone Wars, where he's battling his inner demons and getting to know himself better. This kind of felt like that, but in more of a general sense. The idea of it, the concept of it. This wasn't my favorite episode of the season by any means, but I do appreciate that they tried to do something unique. And speaking of unique, episode 9 of season 3 is titled Black, and what the hell did I just watch? This to me looked like what I imagine an acid trip is like. The music was poppin' though, I'll give it that. This was an episode that was kind of just all over the place visually, but audibly, we were cooking. Now, to my best understanding, this is everything racing through the psyche, the mentality of a stormtrooper who's about to die or has been defeated or something like that. I know a lot of people who would not get that takeaway. Maybe I've got the wrong takeaway, let me know. To me, it's a lot more about the representation of thought and feeling, as well as that artistic side of things rather than just pure storytelling. And that's not for everybody. It's not my favorite episode of the batch either, but I do appreciate the artistic style of it. I would wager that this isn't a lot of people's favorite episode of the season, but I will say it's probably an animator's wet dream. Overall, I'm not quite sure if season 3 reached the highs of season 1 and season 2. The Ninth Jedi Child of Hope might be the only one that's comparable to my other favorites in the first 2 seasons. So in that respect, maybe it didn't quite reach those highs because there are more episodes in the first 2 seasons that I have closer to that high level. But on average, I think that I enjoyed season 3's batch of episodes more so than season 2's. I think that season 2 was a lot more inconsistent, and season 3, on average, I enjoyed those episodes a lot more. And since there are only currently 3 seasons of Star Wars Visions, with a 4th season on the way, allegedly, I'm gonna go ahead and rank these first 3 seasons. Even though I'm less confident about season 3 reaching the highs of season 1 and season 2, like I said, on average I enjoyed this season more, just episode to episode, and so I think I would have to rank the seasons season 1, season 3, season 2. There are some episodes in season 2 that I absolutely love, but there are some that I really just don't care for as much. I have those in season 3 as well, but I think that there are fewer of them, and so I think that has to put season 3 above season 2. But overall, I had a fun time with season 3. I enjoyed watching through these episodes, finally, because they've been out for a little while now, and so it was just nice to catch up with all the people who had already seen it. But if you've seen season 3 of Star Wars Visions, what was your favorite episode? What was your least favorite episode? Did you enjoy this season? Did you not? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't seen it, I promise, like season 1 and season 2, there are episodes in here that are good episodes. You won't care for them all, most likely. If you're like me, you won't love them all, but there will be some that you really like. And unlike season 2, if you enjoyed some of those episodes from season 1, you can continue those stories in season 3, which I think is really cool and really fun. And thank you to everybody who stuck around during my Star Wars Visions journey. If you're like me and have seen all 3 seasons, or even if you've seen 1 and 2 or just 1, what was your favorite season? Let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that's all I've got to say for now about Star Wars Visions Season 3. If you want to help me out here on YouTube, liking this video, commenting on this video, subscribing to the channel, or checking out some of my other videos, all help me grow the YouTube channel. If you want to check out some of my other videos, I've done Season 1 and Season 2 of Star Wars Visions, as well as some other Star Wars related content, and just other stuff in general. So if any of that sounds good to you, go check it out. But yeah, until next time. Bye. Episode 5